You're watching the Daystar Television Network.
Has been born, and one man at the center of it all with a talent that stands for victory. From the depths of pain and torment to the heights of fame and recognition, his name has become synonymous with gospel music. From Rolling Stone magazine, Billboard, People, and Jet to performing on Soul Train, David Letterman, and The Tonight Show, this 3-time Grammy Award winner and 7-time Dove Award winner has overcome every obstacle in his way. He's risen out of poverty, beaten down drug use, and has been miraculously healed from an accident that many said would end his career. And yet, what the devil would have used to keep this man from his destiny, God used as fuel to fire a leader that would minister to millions upon millions around the world. Today, you will hear about the accident that changed his life, his ministry, and his purpose. But first, let's watch this.
The vision now is more on the ministry, and I really don't want no more attention on me or another person. I really want the attention.
Please welcome to the show, Kirk and Tammy Franklin. Tammy, I like those slow songs. Yes, that was awesome.
It's one of my favorites.
Now, did you write that also?
Me and Jesus.
You and Jesus. Yeah. All right. You know, we're going to talk about a concert that you had in Memphis, Tennessee. What year was that?
96.
1996. I remember being in a church on Sunday morning and the pastor making an announcement to pray for Kirk Franklin. I know there were literally millions of people that prayed for you. Tell us exactly what happened, Kirk.
Well, Yolanda Adams, Fred Hammond, myself, we were on tour. And it was like the first week of the tour. And it was back in 96. And we were going to a city. And this is all I remember. We got into a city. And I remember the group telling me, I don't really remember saying it, but before the concert, the group told me that I said to them, something's going to happen tonight that's going to change our lives. I don't remember saying it, but they told me that what happened was is I introduced Yolanda Adams on stage, and I walked backstage, and I was walking to my dressing room, and I walked through a curtain, and it was black, and some lights were off in the back, and on the other side of the curtain was a 10-foot drop. And they said that what happened was, and there was a guy who was singing with me that was walking with me, and he said that he was talking to somebody, he turned around, and I was gone. And he didn't know what happened, and he opened up the curtain, and he kind of did his foot like that, and he said, you know, that he could feel that there was a drop, and he said he just panicked, and they got some lights on, and they said I was laying in the floor in a puddle of blood. Mm. And so, that's what happened.
It's amazing. He doesn't really remember because of the head injury. Mm. So he remembers even now bits and pieces.
Now, were you there?
I wasn't there when it happened. I was at home.
She was pregnant?
I was 15 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
And getting ready to go take the kids. We were going to go out on the tour for a little bit. And they called me and kind of downplayed it a little bit and said, you know, Kirk, you know, fell down and he's at the hospital for just, you know, for precautions. And, you know, why don't you come on out so when he wakes up you can be here. And
so when you got to the hospital, it was a lot more serious than what everyone anticipated. What did the doctor say?
Well, they never, of course, on the telephone, they didn't want to tell me at 15
they didn't want to alarm
weeks
you.
Pregnant. Right. That he was in ICU. And so when I got there, by this time, the church community had gotten wind of it, and so the hospital was in somewhat of just in pandemonium. It was kind of crazy. And so when I get there, you know, people are on walkie-talkies, and I'm kind of, you know, looking around, and they're like, she's here, and I'm like, okay, you know, what's going on? And when I get there, I'm met by a chaplain, which kind of, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, and they told me that this was their protocol because they were a Methodist hospital. And so I'm brought to him, and no one thought to tell me that he was in ICU. I didn't know until I hit the door. And he was at the very end of the ICU unit, and so of course I had to walk through all the patients, and you know, and so when I get to him, he's not conscious and all kinds of.
What did you see when you got there? What did he look like when you saw him?
He looked a little swollen, and he just looked asleep.
And of course, he was unconscious. So what exactly happened? What did the doctors say the injuries were?
He had a contusion to the left side of his brain, and they were very concerned that he really was not coming to. And so God is just so incredible because they were wanting me to sign papers to say that they could drill through his skull to, I forget what it was.
Release the pressure,
yes.
probably.
Yeah.
And I said, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do. And before I could even get my answer, he woke up. You know.
What was the doctor's prognosis? What was the doctor's prognosis about the fall and the injuries? You know, you have to listen to doctors. We know the Lord uses doctors, but still, just to have to hear all of that, sometimes it's just
well, it was
depressing.
First, it was a bit overwhelming. For me, I just had a peace that he was going to be okay. I mean, I've truly experienced the peace beyond the understanding. And I was just, you know, my mom was even concerned. She's like, are you okay? Because everybody thought, you know, you're kind of handling, you know, and it wasn't that I wasn't worried.
So this was truly the peace that passes all understanding.
Oh, yeah.
That we hear about, but we wonder if in the time of trouble we're really going to have it. And you had it.
Yes, I experienced it without a shadow of a doubt. I didn't necessarily have this great peace that he was going to come to and be just like before. I just knew that whatever happened, God was going to take care of us and everything was going to be okay. And the doctors, it was, at first, like I said, it was a bit overwhelming, and we were, you know, everybody was afraid. And, you know, the more the doctors spoke to us, the more it started being funny because, you know, anyone that knows my husband knows he has a raspy speaking voice. And so he said, well, you know, his voice is really raspy, and we're a little concerned. That, you know, and so we're like, well, okay, yeah. You know, well, you know, his heart rate just races up, and he'll jump up, and then he'll come back, you know, and he's very hyper, you know, we're like.
And you're like,
yeah.
I know that already. I know that already.
You know, we're like, yeah. You know, and then he said, well, in the side of his brain that, you know, the contusion is on, he will be able to sing, but he may have a little trouble speaking. And so that's the part that kind of we're like, okay, you haven't heard the album. He speaks, you know.
He needs to speak.
Yeah, he needs to speak, you know. But, I mean, after I said, God, you're so good, because after speaking with the doctor, rather than being, you know, overly concerned, I'm like, oh, he's going to be fine, everything, you know. But it was touch and go, and, you know, even after the ICU, you go to the post part, and he doesn't remember any of it, but his, you know, Kirk is such a character. He's so funny. And even there, he got like a little choir together. And
you can see all the nurses lined up singing.
I mean, literally. He requested a VCR, a keyboard. He wanted Tommy Hilfiger pajamas. I don't know why. and apple juice.
She's telling on him now.
He had to have
was sick.
No, you might as well take advantage of this moment.
He had to have apple juice. Those were his requests, but he doesn't remember. When we even talk about it, he just kind of sits up like he's hearing it for the first time.
Isn't that amazing? Well, I want you to stay right where you are, because when we come back, we're going to hear Kirk's perspective. We'll be right back.
Light to darkness, one city at a time.
audience today, I'll tell you. Sitting here with Kirk and Tammy Franklin chatting a little bit about God's faithfulness. And Kirk, God was faithful to you. When do you start remembering that accident, or when do you remember any part of it? Or do you remember any part of it?
I really don't remember any part of it, but however, it kind of seems like as time goes by, there'll be like things that'll cross my mind, you know, like that. But outside of that, you know.
So when the doctors told you, now this is what happened, and
they never told me.
They never told you.
No. That was just my wife.
So he just continued to get better. I mean, how long did this process go on, and where were you at that time as far as your relationship with the Lord? Because, you know, we don't like to talk about that, the fact that God can take bad things that happen to us and do a refining process in us. Did any of that happen to you?
Yes. There was no doubt in my mind that right before that I was kind of getting a little puffed up, and there was a little pride, because at that point it was almost like everything that was happening for me that God was doing was like big, you know, and everything was like, you know, I was working on I was going to be working on a sitcom for UPN, and you know, just a whole lot of things, and you know, still hadn't gotten over my wondering eyes, you know, of young ladies, because I was just married, like 10 months.
We were 2 months short of our first anniversary.
Yeah, and so, you know, I still had some little single guy ways.
Little baggage.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Few crumbs?
Carnal crumbs.
Carnal crumbs.
Carnal crumbs.
That we're hanging on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, you know, I mean, we were 26. Yeah. And so, you know, I realized, you know, as soon as it happened, I realized, you know, what God was doing, and I responded. It was like, yes, Lord, you know, and it's like, okay, let's bring this thing down, you know, let's get low, you know, and you know, I'll never forget that process, you know, because it was a very humbling process, you know, because I don't want God to have to go out of his way to get my attention. You know, I want God to be able to look up, and I'm always there.
Yes.
And I'm always like this. You know, I'm always like this. And so
many people are like this with their fists, that God can't really use us, and he's looking for the servant in us.
Yes. He hates pride. It's like when I read the word and it talks about how angry he gets at it. It's like he has a problem, because pride promotes self-sufficiency.
Right.
You know what I mean? It promotes an independence, and he can't stand that. You know, he would rather have us in a wheelchair, paralyzed, talking to him, than have us walking up strong and proud and forgetful. It's like God can't stand it.
Right.
And so I never want God to have to go out of his way to remind me that I'm the created and not the creator.
That was Lucifer's problem. You know, that was really, pride is the entrance, in my opinion, into all sin. I mean, that's why Lucifer was cast out of heaven, and some people believe he was the choir director up in heaven, and that pride came in, and look what happened.
Especially in the gifted.
You have to guard that.
Yes. It's always that Lucifer spirit within the gifted. Always.
So, Tammy, what did you see happen with Kirk in this process? Recovery and getting, of course, today he's like awesome. I mean, you would never know that he went through something like that. I'm talking about not so much physically, but spiritually, what happened to him as a result of going through that.
First and foremost, one thing I've always loved about Kirk is his love for the Lord. So that was already there.
Right.
But it was on 10 now. You know, his desire to please the Lord, his desire to be a servant to the Lord, and that it not be about him, but the focus be about Christ. I saw it even more magnified, not only in his career, but also just in everyday things. It came to be a father, then a husband. You know, I just saw, you know, this transformation like right before my eyes, and I'm going, you know, it was literally like having a new husband. When I thought the one I had was great, but it, you know, it was like, oh, it could get better.
Well, and that's what you're learning things today. Are you hearing things you haven't heard before about testimony.
Thank you.
Oh, what did the doctors say today as a result of that injury? Do you have any long-lasting effect?
We went to see a doctor just to make sure that the brain that was only like 2 pieces, and he hasn't had to have any other visits or anything. Even when we got him home, keeping him in the bed and going through the recovery was so hard. We had to hide the keys because the first night he was home, he got in the car. He had Fruit Loops. And he snuck to the store, and praise God, it was like right around the corner where he didn't drive the car, but he comes walking in the house with the box, and I'm like, where do you go? I just had to have some Fruit Loops.
Some things never change. She's telling on you today, Kirk. Well, y'all are a family. You have 4 kids. Quickly tell us about these little ones. I know if you're like me, you love to talk about this kid.
Yeah, so there's not enough time, right? we have a 15-year-old son, a 14-year-old daughter, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 2-year-old that's about to turn 3. When I was 17, I had a son, and when Tammy was 19, she was a daughter, and we didn't even know each other when we had kids. I mean, we met once. We didn't even know each other about the kids, and so I had a son named Carry-On. She had a daughter named Carrington, and so when we got married, they came together. Their names are close like that, and their birthdays are 1 week apart.
Wow,
and so,
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you've got a blended family.
Yeah.
That's great. That's another whole program, right? That's another whole program. Well, it is awesome to see what the Lord has done, and I've got Kirk's book here, Church Boy, My Music in My Life, Kirk Franklin, his autobiography. Is the story of the fall in here?
Yeah.
Great, great. So you may want to pick that up. But anyway, stay right where you are. We'll be right back with Kirk and Tammy Franklin. Okay, you want to draft our audience for your next concert?
They're hot.
All right, I'm telling you.
Fire.
Well, where are you going from here? Tell us.
What do you mean, cities or just spiritually?
Spiritually, where are you going? What do you see for the next 5 years?
I just want to go lower. I just want to go lower. It's the safest place, I'm grateful. I've seen a lot. I've had a chance to experience a lot at a young age. I've sat at the table with the best and the worst.
Yeah.
I just want to go lower, because it's the safest place, I just want to go lower, really. And I'm not just trying to say that just to sound deep, and my private time with God, I want to go lower.
So if we go lower, it enables him to go higher. And he said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. Amen.
One of the greatest stories that has touched my heart more than anything about the character of Christ is as soon as he finished feeding the thousands, when he saw the crowd coming to him and they were going to make him king, he ran from the crowd. It's interesting how much we want to be like Jesus, but the stuff we like is totally opposite of what he liked.
Right.
He ran from the crowd. He didn't want to be popular because of what he did. He wanted them to follow him because of who he was. And so, that's what I want.
Amen.
That's what I want.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. What a blessing.
Thank you.
Kirk and Tammy Franklin.